Hello everyone, welcome back to the Undercut. Today we are giving our Vegas Grand Prix preview and predictions. So good race last year.
Very good race last year. One of my favourite races last year.
Yeah, so I
Actually.
mean, it hopefully will be a really good weekend.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to look forward to. Obviously, this could be the race where Max clinches the championship. First of all, on that, do you think he will?
No.
You don't think he will?
I think he's won it, but I don't think it will be mathematically yet.
Yeah, it won't be like done out
Yeah.
100%.
It won't be mathematically.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I mean, let's just jump straight in, shall we? Because I'm sure we'll see where you've put Mr. Lando Norris in these predictions. Let's start with pole. Who do you think is going to get pole at the Las Vegas Grand Prix this year?
This year, I think it'll be Charles Leclerc.
Okay, Charles obviously went very well last year.
Yeah, very well last year. Very good end to this season for Charles Leclerc, and I think his form will just continue.
Yeah, I agree. I've also gone with Charles Leclerc on pole position. For me, it's less about Charles doing well. Well, that obviously plays a part, but I think a big part of it is the Ferrari seems to work well around high-speed circuits. We saw them, obviously, Charles do well around Baku. He got the pole there.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of just working off that at the moment, and I think Charles will pull through, and I think he'll have a fantastic race as well. But we'll get into that when we get into that.
Yes, we will. I think Ferrari just look probably the best team out there at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So I think the momentum Ferrari have, the backing that Charles has, it's going to be a good weekend.
Ferrari are the team to beat, I think, definitely.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
they have to be. Well, let's move on to our top three then. So who have you got in third place?
Top three. In third place,
Yep.
I've got Carlos Sainz.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, Carlos Sainz, obviously, I think Ferrari continued the trend of being the team to beat, some would say. Well, you just said. I think Carlos went quite well round here, considering everything that happened to him last year. If you look at all the incidents that happened to him, obviously him and Fernando having a battle, obviously the race start, the no grip, the drain cover that blew him up, that gave him the penalty. So, all considered for Carlos Sainz, it wasn't an awful race considering everything went against him last year. So he does have the pace. We've seen on street circuits this season, he's just as good thereabouts with everyone else. So street circuit's not an issue for Carlos. I think he wants to try and prove that he's still good enough for that Ferrari seat as well. And I think a third place is on the cards for him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. In third place, I've got Carlos Sainz as well. I think it's a very... It's going to be a good weekend for Ferrari. And he'll definitely snatch a podium, I think, for every reason you mentioned.
Yeah.
Second place?
Lando Norris. I think McLaren will be there. I think the thing is with McLaren so far, obviously it had a great start. Obviously Netherlands, Monza, Singapore. The McLaren look gone.
Yeah.
Up the road. Obviously Charles won Monza, but if it wasn't for the strategy that Charles and Ferrari pulled off, McLaren were gone.
Yeah.
And then recently, Texas, Brazil. They haven't looked like the team to beat anymore. And I think Mexico, Lando dragged them through there. Texas, I think Lando dragged them through there pretty well as well. With Oscar kind of underperforming in both of them. But I think we'll start to see a little bit of form from McLaren again in Vegas. I think this is a track that will serve them well. Obviously, we saw how well Lando was at Singapore street circuit. Tight, twisty, fast, and that's what Vegas is. And I think Lando will perform relatively well. I just think that Ferrari has a little bit more on the McLaren, but I think Lando will do well to pick up a second.
Yeah, I agree with Lando Norris. I've also gone with Lando Norris in second. I mean, I think it's a very cookie cutter podium we've gone with here, and it makes sense because I agree with everything you said, apart from the fact I think they are the team to beat still, but it's very track dependent. I think the only track where they looked like they weren't the team to beat was probably Texas. Mexico, I think if Max doesn't hold Lando up, and takes a penalty, I think Lando could have won that race with the pace he had. Brazil, McLaren were on top, but obviously the wet weather disrupted that. They were out front in the sprint. They were, they got 2 poles in both qualifyings. So I think McLaren are still the team to beat generally, like over the course of maybe 5 races. But I think this track is so Ferrari dependent, so Ferrari dominated. I reckon it's going to be that I think they are going to lose out, unfortunately, for Lando and McLaren. And that only leaves our first place, which I think I can guess what we've both gone with here.
Charles Leclerc.
Yep, Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc. I mean, again, that is quite self-explanatory. Obviously, Charles got both of our pole. He's a master at street circuits as well. Obviously, winning Monaco. Very well at Azerbaijan. Got just done out by Oscar. He always goes well around Singapore. And he went brilliant in Vegas last year. The Ferrari was brilliant in Vegas last year. And I anticipate a brilliant Ferrari this year. And I don't see anyone stopping Charles.
Yeah, and with Red Bull not having the pace that they did last year, I think it's Ferraris to lose almost this year.
Yeah.
Really. So let's move on then to our flop of the weekend. Who will flop this weekend?
Our flop, well, it's difficult because it's a safe bet to go with a team, I feel. Well, not a safe bet, but I've gone with an individual driver.
Okay,
On a
me
gut
too.
feeling.
Go on.
On a gut feel, I think Yuki might just have a poor weekend, and we'll see this weekend maybe the tide swing towards Liam Lawson for next year.
That's interesting. You've gone with Yuki. I did think something similar, but I've also then decided to go a bit more bold, I feel, with my prediction. I've gone with Max Verstappen. And the reason I've gone with Max is because I initially went Red Bull.
Yeah.
But because I think, obviously, I don't think, with the Red Bull sort of maybe being slightly quicker than it's been in recent times around Texas and Brazil.
Yeah.
I don't think the Red Bull's going to be that quick around here. It's going to be more towards their form mid-season, where they were really dropping behind the likes of the Mercedes, both McLarens, both Ferraris. I think that's going to be the form. And I've gone with Max only because of how dominant his performance was in Brazil. Not because he might pick up a 6th or a 7th place, but I think coming off the back of that Brazil victory, it's going to be such a everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, Max is going to be at least on the podium. He's got to be challenging for that win. No one can stop Max. I think it's just going to be a bit blunt, a bit dull, and we're going to see the Red Bull form of old. So I think Max is my flop. Just because, so if anything, it's a compliment to Max. He's going to be a flop because of how well he did in Brazil. That's my flop of the weekend.
I mean, I did think of Max, to be fair, as a flop, but I couldn't put him there in the flop because I do think he will. I don't think he'll be there with the McLarens or the Ferraris, but I think he'll be there, probably ahead of both Mercedes and Checo.
Oh, he'll definitely be ahead of Checo, without doubt.
Yeah. Well, Azerbaijan tells us otherwise.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if that's another thing to go off of, then maybe Max will be an actual flop. But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? So then, let's move on to who will be the biggest surprise of the weekend. Who is your star of the weekend, Mr. Jack? Who's going to catch your attention?
It's not a surprise. It's Charles and Ferrari.
Okay.
I mean, coming off a break, straight in. If they do come in, Charles comes in, dominates the way that I think he will, but you think he will.
Yep.
Then it's hard to miss Charles out from being a star and getting a 5 out of 5 this weekend. Because if he grabs a pole, dominates the race, clear out in front, Sainz picks up a third, does well in qualifying as well, it's hard to not say Ferrari and Charles are your star performers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I would have gone with Charles, but I felt like I wanted to throw another driver in there that I think is going to do pretty well. I've gone with Nico Hulkenberg. I think there's a little bit of a maybe a slight drought over Hulkenberg maybe the last few races. I think maybe, at least compared to his form for the whole season, it's been brilliant. But I'm confident that he's going to turn something around, beat Magnussen comprehensively, and I think he'll score a few more points for the team. And especially, I think it will be even more significant, his result, based on the fact that now they've got a fight with Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, RB is still there as well in the fight.
Yep, they are, definitely.
So it's significant who picks up that 9th and 10th now.
100%. Those points are crucial, and there's 6 drivers who could, and you can't discount Fernando Alonso either. And if Stroll has a good weekend, I know we like to clown on Stroll a bit, but Stroll is capable of scoring a few points. So,
that's not what you told me the other day.
No, I love Stroll. I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Crashing.
No, I don't. I'm sure if you had a pint with him down at the pub, I'm sure he's a nice guy. He's probably a nice geezer.
Eyebrows.
Thank you for watching our preview and predictions for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And we'll see you for the lives on Saturday and Sunday at 6 in the friggin' morning.